Hello and welcome to PurpleSpace's Purple Light Up reference group meeting. This is a short housekeeping announcement before we begin. Captioning is available and will appear at the bottom of your screen. This webinar is being recorded and will be uploaded to PurpleSpace's resource library on our website at purplespace.org. We encourage you to connect with your peers in the chat, and you can post questions to the panelists throughout the meeting, which we'll cover later in the session. Now I'm delighted to hand over to PurpleSpace CEO and founder and the creator of the PurpleSpace movement, Kate Nash.
Kirsty, thank you so much. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's meeting. It's great to see so many of you joining. I can see you all dialing in, and we're expecting up to 60. So thank you so much for sharing your time. It's such a precious commodity, so it's just lovely to have you all with us. Today is all about the Purple Light Up. So we're really going to dive into what happened last year and what we're going to do going forward. So you're in the right place, hopefully at the right time for the right meeting. For the purposes of the recording, I'm a woman in her 50s with shoulder length auburn hair, and I'm wearing a black and white blouse, and I dial in from wet and windy Mumbles on the south coast of Wales in the United Kingdom. And wherever you're dialing in from and whenever you listen to this, I really hope, as we all do at PurpleSpace, that you're safe and that you're well. Purple Light Up was founded and led by PurpleSpace, and it's really to celebrate, as you know, the economic contribution of employees with disability around the world. And it's our mark of respect to the United Nations International Day of Persons with Disability on the 3rd of December each year. And of course, as we all know, it's more than just one day. It's about how we focus and spotlight on activity that happens throughout the year, and we know that so many of you are involved in incredible activities, and we're going to hear a little bit about that today. So to set this meeting into context, we run these meetings several times a year, at least 3 times a year, and they're really to help our members to really leverage the Purple Light Up movement, so that you can drive action, so that you can lead action, and so that you can create the activities to support cultural change, where we make it easier for organisations to build a better and more accessible working world to our colleagues, or for our colleagues with disability. The sessions are really threefold: sharing experiences about how organisations can leverage Purple Light Up, sustain and develop change. We use the sessions to look at impact. We've got some fantastic speakers, she said very excitedly today, who are going to share a little bit about their experiences to stimulate thoughts, so that we can really understand the impact that the Purple Light Up movement has. And thirdly, it's about reporting to you the very early activities that we're thinking through in terms of the next Purple Light Up, because we know it's such a central force that the earlier starting the planning process is, the better. So in terms of our agenda, Kirsty, I wonder if you would just flip us onto the agenda very quickly. So after I talk, I'm going to hand over to my wonderful colleague, Graham Moffat. Graham is on loan for us. Apparently we can't keep him forever, much as we'd love to, but he's on loan to us from HSBC, one of the secondees that we have on loan, and directed the campaign last year, so lots of experience, and he's going to canter through some of the metrics, which are extraordinary, as well as just a little bit of some of the impact that we've seen. We've then got 2 fantastic speakers. We're joined today by Danielle McIntyre from Natwest Group, the chair of the Enable Disability Network, which is fantastic. And we also have Collen Reedy, the Global Workplace Inclusion and Diversity Lead at Accenture, which is wonderful. And then after a Q&A session, so that's the majority of the time, hearing from you, hit the chat box, tell us your questions, tell us your thoughts. And if they're not questions, they might be comments. So anything that you can share to support your colleagues around the world to notice the impact, that will be super. And then we're just going to recap at the end on some of the things that we've got planning for this year. So without any further ado, Graham, come into the room. Let's hear from you. We're going to hear a little bit about what happened last year.
Thanks very much, Kate, and thank everyone for joining us today. I'll describe myself. So I am a male in my 40s. I act like I'm in my 20s, mind you. I am bald with a beard. I'm wearing a kind of white flowery shirt with a grey waistcoat. And you said you were in wet and windy Scotland is always where I am. So I want to talk to you today through the reach and the impact of last year's Purple Light Up. What I can do to help you tell your story of your Purple Light impact this year. And let me begin, however, with sharing with you the reach that Purple Light Up had this year across the globe. Kirsty, if you can click forward, please. So we had 127 total members participated in last year's Purple Light Up, with a total reach across social media of 173 million followers. But we also had over 300 companies that are not members of PurpleSpace, additional organisations participating in Purple Light Up 2021, including over 140 business partners that my ability were able to support. And they have a total reach of over 80 million followers. That means last year's Purple Light Up activity had a reach for, wait for it, over 253 million followers across social media. Wow. Incredible, incredible, incredible. With Purple Light Up 2021, we encouraged disability ERG and network leaders to sit down with their CEOs and have a leader-to-leader conversation to help showcase the power of disability ERGs and networks in creating an inclusive working world for employees with disabilities, as well as the characteristics of good leadership. I'd like to share a little bit around what we saw. Through Leader to Leader, we heard from many organisations from across the globe and from a wide range of sectors. For example, we heard from Andrew Bailey, the Governor of the Bank of England. At Microsoft, we saw 8 different Leader to Leader films looking at how they tackle accessibility for both their customers and their colleagues. We heard a thought-provoking conversation with Duncan Chu from the Victorian public sector about how leadership is an action, not a position. Now, not everyone was in the position to take part in Leader to Leader, and as such, they used Purple Light Up in many different ways. 3rd December, also a great opportunity to launch a new network, like our colleagues at Merlin Entertainment did this past year, or it can be used as a way to introduce a new ERG or network leaders, like our colleagues at PwC, when they introduced their new global disability leader. So no matter where your company is in its journey, Purple Light Up presents an opportunity to take the conversation forward. And with that in mind, I want to share that it's never too early to start planning your 2022 Purple Light Up, and we at PurpleSpace can help. I'm currently creating a Purple Light Up member support package that will be available for all members and will launch later this year to help with the planning and preparation for this year's Purple Light Up. And don't worry, if you didn't get a chance to view the videos on the day, as there were quite a few, we are going to be highlighting one of these videos each week going forward in a PLU flashback post on LinkedIn. I hope you can take the time, grab a coffee and sit and enjoy the conversations and see what your peers are discussing. Now let me give you a little summary of the reach of the Leader to Leader activity. We were witness to an incredible 70 Leader to Leader videos from across 53 different organisations globally. They asked some really tough questions and helped move the conversation forward. But we weren't the only ones watching. These videos have been viewed over, again, wait for it, 186,000 times. I'm sure you can all agree this is incredible, and all those who have participated should be really proud of themselves. I also want to let you know that there was a further 75 non-Leader to Leader videos shared on social media celebrating Purple Light Up and International Day of Persons with Disabilities, and these videos have been viewed over 318,000 times. This means that videos covering Purple Light Up, International Day of Persons with Disabilities and Leader to Leader had over 500,000 combined views, an incredible reach for an incredible movement. Now pass you back to Kate, I believe.
Graham, thank you so much. A tiny, tiny, tiny snippet of an incredible reach you can see there. And, you know, we owe you a lot of thanks, Graham, but more than that, the members, each of you in the room and across the world, are very clearly using this movement as a way of driving change. Absolutely phenomenal. Thank you so much. Extraordinary. I'm going to turn now, without any further ado, to our first speaker. So we have with us Danielle, who is from the Natwest group, and Danielle is the global co-chair of the Enable Network. So Danielle, hello, thank you for joining us, welcome. The floor is yours. Tell us how you leverage the movement at Natwest Group.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Kate, and thank you for inviting me along today. Yep, so as Kate says, my name is Dan. I work for Natwest and I'm one of the co-chairs for the Enable Network. I don't believe I'm on video today as I'm coming in as a speaker, but for those of you that did want to imagine what I look like, I'm a female in my extremely late 30s now, I'm afraid to say. I have blonde bobbed hair and I'm wearing a leopard print shirt today. So just to give some details about what we did for Purple Light Up for 2021. So in 2020, we will probably be really open and honest around the fact that we were probably late to the party. So we didn't allow ourselves enough time to really get behind some activities. But even with saying that, we still managed to stir up some great sort of buy-in and excitement and buzz around Purple Light Up 2020. And that really spurred us on that if we could get that much buzz with little organisation or little time, then imagine what we could achieve for 2021 with time on our side. And that's really what we sort of grabbed with both hands for 2021, and we started forming a working group within our network, within our employee-led network, as we call them here at NatWest, in August, to really get together a group of people that were tasked with simply to look at what we could do to get maximum impact for Purple Light Up in December. And so we really did, that was the key sort of action that we took away from 2020, and it was around that sort of get started early, get your group of committed members to help formulate a plan as early as possible. And what we wanted to do, and we obviously took on board what PurpleSpace has said about the theme for that year around leaders to leader conversation, and we really wanted to open up that conversation much more broadly, and we wanted to build on that conversation theme. So what we quickly decided when we started our plan is that we wanted to include conversations in general. So, you know, conversations are so powerful and are an absolute driver for change. And so we really wanted to focus on conversations between everyone, conversations between colleagues to colleagues, leader to leader, leader to colleague, to really sort of open up those honest conversations. And so, as I say, we've built on that leader to leader theme. And even though we had fantastic buy-in from our ex-co-sponsor who done and agreed to pull together a leader to leader conversation for us for the event, we really did focus on those other conversations, those on the ground kind of conversations with each other. And so what we formulated is actually, we didn't want to concentrate just on the day either. We wanted to have a much broader focus. So we come up with a 2-week worth of events that we ran for Purple Light Up, with the week before being the build up, the real sort of build up of excitement around Purple Light Up, with Purple Light Up in the middle, and then following on with the following week with further actions that we asked people to take and further activities. You know, we were really key that Purple Light Up isn't just for the day. You know, it's not just a day to celebrate and raise awareness, and it's not even just for 2 weeks, it's every day. But we wanted to really embed and get into people's ethos around why we were doing this, why it was important. And so throughout those 2 weeks, we hosted various different things. So one of our most powerful sort of campaigns that we ran throughout that 2 weeks was our In Conversation With series. which was a series of videos that were shared over those 2-week periods with myself in conversation with different colleagues, but all with a reoccurring theme around sort of who they are, what they've achieved, where they work in the bank, and sort of some of them were sharing their real lived experiences with disabilities. Other conversations were centred around sort of the department they were working. So, for example, our digital technology team come along to share what they do and what they can do to support colleagues with digital assistive technology. And we also had members and representatives from our workplace adjustment team coming along to share what work they do and what support colleagues could get throughout the bank. So all were really, really powerful. There were some fun questions in there as well. It was over the Christmas period, so we had lots of talk of what chocolate bar would you be, and what was your favourite Christmas film, which is always an eye-opener, I think. But they all ended with a really powerful message about what actions people could take, where people could find support, but also sharing those real lived experiences so people could really resonate as to why we were doing this and why it was so important. We also had a bit of a celebrity come in and join us. So we had Nick Hamilton, the brother of Lewis, come and join us for a virtual talking event, which again was fantastic. He shared his experiences with cerebral palsy, but also his fantastic career and what he's achieved. So again, keeping that theme of conversation, but also success and celebration. And that's what we really wanted to get across, is that everybody has something to celebrate. Other events that we held, we were joined by the CEO of Lexic, who the bank actually partnered with to provide support to our neurodiverse colleagues. So they come in and sort of hosted a session around what they offer and what the bank offers in terms of support. And we held a really fantastic session, which again kept in that theme of conversation. It was an open panel event discussion, and it was based around Phil Friend's book, and Why Are You Pretending to Be Normal? And it was made up of myself and various other members of the network and colleagues. And it was just literally an opportunity for people to jump in, comment on the book, comment about some of the things that Phil talks about in the book, how it's changed their life, or not. And it was a really, really great discussion, and lots of ideas about our strategy and what we want to do for the next year come out of that session as well. On the day, we obviously went purple, as I'm sure lots of people did. Our internal intranet page turned purple for the day, as well as some of our buildings, including our head office in Gogarburn. And we've obviously added a fun element to that day as well, and did encourage everybody to rock their purple, wear their purple, whether that's a pair of socks, whether it's a headband, whether it was top to toe purple like myself, which maybe one day I'll share the picture to you all, which was, I like to call it just a plethora of purple is what I described myself in that day. My children were quite aghast when I come down the stairs, put it that way, when they saw my outfit. But it was a real, to add that fun element and to create that sea of purple. And we also incorporated a prize for the best dressed in purple, which gave people a chance to win some special International Day of Persons with Disabilities band socks, as well as a signed copy of the Phil Friend book, which again we just thought really, one, it was lovely to have a prize, and they were obviously very much in keeping with the theme, but also sharing the Phil Friend book, which is giving those people that opportunity to learn, because even if people had won it that don't have a disability themselves, it's a real eye-opener as to what people are going through and what they consider and what they are trying to learn about themselves. In terms of ExCo support and sort of senior management support this year, we saw a massive increase. Last year, it was very much based on us as a network and as an employee-led network. But this year, we had great buy-in from not only bank comms, which helped us create a desktop takeover for the 2 weeks, as well as a GIF that we could use in our communications and on our social media pages, which was fantastic. But we also had CEO buy-in. Alison Rose shared a post and encouraged all of her senior ExCo team to wear purple on the day, and our ExCo sponsor was absolutely fantastic in helping us secure some extra funding to be able to get the likes of Nick in, which was again amazing. And for the first time, we actually appeared as a network on external media, which was the first for us. And it's something that we're hoping to carry on for next year. But there was a video shared as well via LinkedIn around disability and Purple Light Up, which was absolutely fantastic. I could go talk about how exciting it was forever, but I really just want to give my key tips for success, really. And I said it earlier, get planning early, get that early buy-in from senior leaders and sort of your bank communications team, because we just found that was so valuable this year, and it really did push it forward and really highlighted it and got other people buzzing that perhaps may not have been as buzzing about it if we didn't have that buy-in. But the get planning early is a massive help as well. And think big. You know, we didn't want to settle for a day. You know, a day is great, but we wanted to extend it for a few days to allow people to get involved, especially in sort of the organisations such as Natwest, when work patterns are so diverse and shift patterns are so varied. We wanted to allow everyone an opportunity to get involved in some way. So it was really important to us that we didn't just focus on one day. And record any of your live sessions, just that they're available for staff to watch back. But also we wanted to do that just so that we've got an ongoing resource that we can refer back to and continue to share, which was fantastic. And finally, just enjoy it. You know, we are absolutely buzzing as a network for Purple Light Up. And I think when we're buzzing, other people feed off that as well. As chairs and as a team, we absolutely love pulling it together. It's absolutely hectic, especially at the end of the year, which is the worst time of the year for many people, I'm sure, but it's so much fun. And I think if people can see us as ELN chairs really loving bringing it to people, it intrigues people more and they want to get involved. So I think that's just a sort of a couple of tips from me, but it really was fantastic, and we are excited to see what we can build and deliver this year.
Wonderful. Dan, we can feel your fizz coming down the airwaves. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. I mean, so many standout points, planning early. Really planning early to think about, and you described a very structured program, so we can almost hear the discipline of thought that you have in terms of how you delivered your own campaign. I like your advice, your stretch, think big. I love that, thinking the impossible. Your advice about getting senior sponsorship, not just in terms of funding. Funding is of course important, but in terms of lending their name and opening doors. And also your advice around using external resources like the amazing Phil Friend and the book that he wrote, like external well-known speakers and orators who are able to bring to life the lived experience. So Dan, fantastic tips. Thank you muchly. I know we could keep you here till midnight. However, Colin would not thank us. So I'm going to stand you down for the moment. Dan, remind us, you're going to be with us for the rest for the Q&A session, aren't you?
I will indeed, Kate, yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. If that's possible, I don't know what agreement you have with Kirsty, but if you can, that would be absolutely wonderful, because I can see the questions coming through. So without any further ado, let me now turn to the wonderful Collen Reedy, who is Disability Inclusion and I&D Programme Lead over in Accenture. Collen is coming in from across the pond today. Thank you so much for joining us, Collen, and I can't wait for this next presentation. The floor is yours.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Thank you for the intro, Kate, and the opportunity to speak today. And Danielle, I'll just have to say it's really great to hear from you and the work and about the work that Natwest is doing. It's absolutely fantastic. But as mentioned, I'm Collen Reedy. I'm Accenture's Global Workplace Inclusion and Diversity Lead. I'm a Black male with dark skin, a bald head, and a beard. I'm wearing a light blue colored shirt with a gray beard. And behind me is a purple wall with monitors. And I'm joining from Atlanta in the US today. And I can claim my 30s for just a few more months. I'm gonna take that opportunity while I still can. But I'm really passionate and fortunate to get to work on accessibility and disability inclusion daily at Accenture. As an organization, we believe that each person has unique skills, talents, and strengths to contribute. We're enabling change to ensure that people with disabilities have access to the latest technology, tools, and training to really create a barrier-free workplace. So simply put, we want to be the most inclusive organization that we can be. And can we go to the next slide, please? Great, thank you. So 2021 was the first year that we participated in Purple Light Up as well as the Leader to Leader campaign. And we were really thrilled with the impact. So looking forward to just sharing a little bit about our experience. And first I'll start with Purple Light Up. Just a few details, but we'll spend most of the time talking about the Leader to Leader conversations. So in year one, we had 37 locations across 22 countries participate. In addition to physically lighting up the exterior and interior of our offices, we had a coordinated external social media campaign across platforms, and I'll share some of those details in just a moment. And additionally, we also put emphasis on the campaign through digital signage, Microsoft Teams backgrounds, just to name a few. And go to the next slide, please. Okay, great. So here I just wanted to share some of the metrics that highlight the impact of the Purple Light Up. And I'll just kind of say that this snapshot is actually just a couple of weeks out from Purple Light Up. So I've likely risen since then. Won't drain this or go through each individually, but a particular note is that it was one of our most engaged posts of all time on LinkedIn. And that's quite a feat in an organization of our size. We also received great support and feedback from the employee resource groups and communities globally. And in fact, I would just say that it was definitely a partnership and that the ERGs actually drove quite a bit of the local engagement. Next slide. Great. Okay, so now I'll focus a little bit on our Leader to Leader campaign, which was global. We had 3 leaders from across 3 markets showcase their commitment by participating and engaging in conversation on first kind of the importance of disability inclusion. We know how important it is that our leaders are vocal and visible when it comes to their commitment. And 2, we really wanted to focus on the positive impact that employee resource groups and networks can drive in creating an inclusive workplace for persons with disabilities. And I think we can all say that I'm sure that we're all aware that disability inclusion is complex. It's heavily governed by legal mandates and privacy laws, but we really wanted to emphasize the need to open up, to speak, and to ask for required accommodations, or really any form of support that will empower our colleagues and friends with disabilities to be their best at work. So a couple more aspects that we covered during these conversations were, the need to boost disability confidence by encouraging people to self-disclose their disabilities. We wanted to empower our hiring managers to confidently outreach and hire people with disabilities. We really know that direct supervisors are really key in any employee experience, and that certainly holds true for persons with disabilities and the ease at which they can navigate the organization and bring their authentic selves to work. We wanted to recognize, of course, the economic contributions of persons with disabilities around the world. And we wanted to make accessibility a must-have and not a good-to-have attribute. We want accessibility to be a part of everything that we do, and we don't want it to be an afterthought. And then finally, we wanted to draw attention to the various platforms available within Accenture to network, support, and discuss the topic. And I'll say, I think a lot of us know the power of connection and the power of storytelling. And a couple of the things that really kind of stood out from our Leader to Leader conversations, first was that our North America CEO, Jimmy Etheridge, comfortably disclosed his vision disability in his conversation with our U.S. disability ERG lead, Sarah Klein. And our hope, of course, is that that will inspire, it will empower others within the disability community to do the same, to really share their stories and to help destigmatize. Our technology lead in Europe, Eve Barnard, during their recording was really passionate about learning more from Bridget Fitzsimmons, our Accent on Enablement lead. And the next steps was that he was going to connect further with Bridget to discuss ways to better highlight and drive disability inclusion. And what I really love about that is that it really speaks to the importance of connection and conversation. And out of that discussion, there was a concrete next step in advancing our efforts. In terms of tips, I won't go into a lot of detail there because I feel like it's been said, but we'll definitely highlight early planning. I definitely think is key to really to make this a successful effort. Leadership buy-in is, of course, really important. We talked about the financial piece, but again, Kate said it absolutely perfectly that lending their voices, them being visible, them having those conversations is really important to driving change. And then the other thing that I would add is that, the partnership with employee resource groups and committees is extremely important. Our experience was that they really kind of help drive the experience and help drive the conversation. So, kind of in closing, we really do feel that Purple Light Up, as well as the leader-to-leader conversations, really significantly enabled us to showcase our leadership commitment to disability inclusion and to advance some really important conversations, not only within the organization, but externally as well. So we definitely look forward to bigger and better in 2022. We're already actively meeting and planning, and I'm really looking forward and excited to see what we'll accomplish this year. But we just want to say thank you again for the opportunity to share just a little bit about our experience today. And I look forward to kind of any questions and discussions that we might have. So Kate, turning back over to you.
Wonderful. Collen, fantastic. That really is amazing. From a standing start, I think you went from 0 to, I don't know, 90 miles an hour. I don't know what's legal. However, really knocking it out of the park, both of you, in different ways. Stunning. Well, look, the questions are coming through. Everyone's hit my private chat box. So without any further ado, I'm going to tuck straight into some of those questions, and some of the questions I might come to both of you, if I may, and other questions I'll ask just one of you, if that's okay. The first, I think, to both of you, and notwithstanding you're at different stages of journey and different places within the business, the question that's coming through is, how do you maintain momentum after the impact of the day? Because it's huge. You both shared incredible metrics, incredible engagement, incredible engagement from allies and different parts of the business. It must have provoked deep thoughts about how you can capitalise and leverage the movement throughout the course of the year. So question, Dan, I'll come to you first, if I may. Your thoughts about how you maintain momentum and impact after the day.
Yeah, so I think for us, it really helps to align us with what we want to do anyway as a network for our strategy. So it builds momentum because from the conversations that we have throughout that period, it then gives us a really good steer as to what our focus is, what we want our focus is to be on for 2022, and that helps drive the momentum. So for us as a network, it really come out around the accessibility piece and what we can do as a network to really support and drive that, and what areas we need to focus on as a network to help support change. So for that, that helped spur on the momentum, and I think the conversation theme helped with that, in the fact that we could really listen to what our members were saying and what our colleagues were saying to help sort of gauge what their pain points are, what their positive experiences are, to help really spur us on to what we want to do for them for this year. So I think it's those conversations that come out that really build that momentum and then give us a clear direction of where we want to go and what we want to focus on for this year.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dan. What about yourself, Collen, about how you sustain momentum, how you keep going, how you pick up those things that were most noticed within the business?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, I think it was really well stated before, the conversations are important, but I think it's really important also to make sure that you're planning really carefully and really intentionally. So, outside of having the conversation, which definitely has power, we want to make sure that we're actioning it, right? That when people are bringing concerns or ideas, or they're being innovative, that we're taking that next step to implement, right, and to try it. And so I think for us, what we try to do is to make sure that when we do have those conversations, that we are capturing feedback and that we are carefully planning, right? That we're looking towards the next year, the next fiscal year, and we have really clearly defined priorities. And so those priorities and the feedback that we hear, we can align those with the firm-wide I&D priorities and disability inclusion priorities. So I would just say that, you know, it's kind of making that link between the conversation, but also actually planning it out and planning out a course of action to make sure that we are that it's not just a conversation, that we are looking towards making sustained change.
I love it. Again, next question to both of you. You know, we see in PurpleSpace a very generous community. This is a community of leaders across the world who genuinely want to learn together, develop their leadership skills wherever they're placed within the business. One of the questions comes through is, what is your personal learning? What is your personal lesson in terms of this disability movement? Anything that you reflected on about what you've learned personally and therefore would choose to replicate going forward? Dan, if I can come to you first.
Yeah, I think for me, it's the power of openness, and I've always been a big believer in it anyway. But I think for me, it just really emphasised the importance of not just those sort of higher level with senior level conversations, but that how you can be open and honest with people and what power that gives people and what trust that gives people. And I think we really saw that. We saw so many more people sharing with us, sharing as a community, as a network, and just seeking support from one another. And I think it's simple, but it's powerful. And it shouldn't be underestimated. And I think it just highlighted that that is something that's so important for us, is to keep that community feel, that open, safe space for people to share. And you know, I'm sure that other people found that as well on the day. But it was lovely to see so many people sharing their experiences with us, just simply because of something that we opened up for them. So yeah, that was probably my biggest learning.
Wonderful, Dan. Collen, same question to you. Private learning.
Yeah, I would say that, you know, out of some of those conversations, and the one that really stands out to me was our North America CEO talking about his and sharing and disclosing his vision disability, and talked about as a child his experience, and, you know, to today how that impacts him, and had quite a few conversations with people saying that, you know, that empowered them to actually seek an accommodation, right? That allowed them to maybe disclose to their coworkers or to their manager. And I just think that is that's absolutely fantastic. We do have, you know, quite a robust accommodation process, right? Where an employee can go in and they can request an accommodation, any type of assistive technology, ergonomic equipment, or any type of workplace adjustment, and they can do so, right, without the direct knowledge of their hiring manager. And we do that intentionally, right? But I'd also think that having more discussion is powerful, and having more discussion really helps kind of destigmatize. So, you know, had some really, really great conversations. And yeah, I was personally impacted by hearing our North America CEO share that. And I think that it allows people to be more of their authentic self, and encourages them to have, you know, those conversations for learning.
Wonderful. I'm going to build on this. Lots of questions coming in that build off that. There are lots of spin-off type questions. One is around how you secure senior sponsorship. So, you know, we had the leader to leader theme this year, and as Graham shared with us earlier, it just captured the imagination of organisations around the world. And we have many conversations with ERG leaders and chief execs and senior executive sponsors. There are some organisations within our community who may not as yet have a good link with their senior executive sponsor. So what would your advice be about, and tips, I suppose, for an ERG leader who hasn't got that connection? What would you advise them to do? How would they approach a senior business leader to get their sponsorship? It might be cash, or it might be their name. Dan, I'll come to you first, and then I'll come to Collen.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a tough one, that, and we're really lucky here at Enable that our sponsor is incredibly supportive and has always been very proactive right from the very outset. However, that can't be said for perhaps some of our colleagues and some of our other networks. And I know it's a difficult conversation to have. I think probably the best advice is to use good role modeling to maybe bring to them that, you know, for example, colleagues in one of our networks had an issue with their sponsor, and so they sort of very carefully positioned the work that other exco sponsors were doing for some of the other networks in a very subtle way, and that sort of seemed to get the impact. I suppose it's almost pitching them against one another, perhaps. You know, look what they're doing better than you, perhaps, but not positioned in that way. So I suppose from experience from some of our colleagues in the other ELNs, that's one way to do it. And for us, we've always tried to keep regular contact, so set up regular contact once a month with our exco sponsor, so that he could clearly see what we want to do, what we are doing, but also to address any of those pain points and barriers that we're experiencing. So we're not sort of storing them up for 6 monthly meetings. It's having that regular contact to build up that relationship with him, which has been really vital for us. And so I suppose for us, that would be a key bit of advice, is get that regular time in him or her diary to open up that dialogue, and so that they can really see what you're doing, what you're achieving, and see progress, or can help them where there are some barriers and that you need them to support. So that would be probably a couple of tips from me on how to sort of get that exco buy-in.
Dan, that's lovely. And I'm going to come to you, Colin. I'm just building. I mean, Belinda, high five, Belinda. So we have Linda, who said hello from the USA, co-chair of the firm's Disability Accessibility ERG, would welcome advice for a simple pitch to my CEO for budget for Purple Light Up. As a background, she's a partner at Denton's global law firm, but again, really rocking it over in the States and across the world. So just building on that same theme. Colin, your thoughts about securing that executive buy-in and engagement?
Absolutely. I think it's two-pronged, right? I think that one thing that's important is to tell the story, and I think it's to get to the heart of disability inclusion and accessibility and why this is important, right? So definitely a suggestion would be to maybe kind of collect and share some employee stories. I think is always super helpful, someone that can actually speak to their personal experience. So definitely say get to the heart of the topic. The second thing is, I think that there's a lot of success with senior leaders sometimes. We know that this is the right thing to do, but the other helpful thing that we can do is kind of show from a business standpoint why this is a business imperative and why disability inclusion is important, and to actually be able to sometimes put numbers and stats, right? We know that organizations who are inclusive, organizations that are focusing on disability inclusion are more profitable. We know that they're more innovative, right? And so one of the things I will offer, in addition to, happy to have conversations with people individually about, their kind of specific situation. The other thing I'll say is that Accenture has some really good research and some external research that you can leverage, right? We have some great studies. If you go to our website, our disability inclusion website, we have our Get Into Equal study, for example. We have a lot of fantastic studies that have the financial implications as well as telling the story. So I think it's two-pronged. I think it's getting to the heart of it, and then also think it's being able to speak to the economic and business benefits of participating.
Wonderful. Wise advice, and let's make sure you're absolutely right, Colin. We've seen, many of your studies and your research and the stats, and as we know, people are moved in different ways. Some are moved by the stories and the lived experience and the normalizing of disability as a human experience, and others like the metrics. So let's make sure we make it easier for our members to access some of that great work that you have done. One question that's coming from me, I'm going to quickly cover it off. So as you all know, I started Purple Light Up with a very simple tweet, and I didn't think about it too deeply. I wish that I had. And I go around saying to my team, Forgive me, for I knew not what I did, but I jest because no, I ask for no forgiveness. The question is, did I expect it to be what it has become? The short answer is absolutely not. I had no idea when I noticed the wonderful way, the skillful way that our colleagues from the LGBT+ communities use the pride community and the rainbow flag as emblematic of the struggle. And the question in my mind, as we saw purple across the world increasingly become the colour that is emblematic of the disability lived experience, the question on my mind, could we not bring together three things: this growing vehicle of ERGs around the world, the wonderful United Nations International Day of Persons with Disability, and the colour purple? And I put out a tweet to the world and the answer was yes. So short answer, I had no idea, but it's wonderful. But ultimately, this is about you, the members, and how you've made manifest, I suppose, the need for our equivalent of pride within the disability community. It's wonderful. Right, a couple more questions. I think, right, the team are texting me, they're WhatsApping me, they're sending me messages, they're telling me I've got another 4 minutes, so that tells me I've got another 2 questions. So one is, and this one just to you, Colin, if I may, and then the other one to Dan. So one was, let me get it. It's coming in from one of our members, from Kerry. I can't find it, but let me see if I can remember it. It's about intersectionality, Colin, and whether you saw engagement from other ERGs, from other sector-specific communities. You know, what was your experience? And if not, do you think that there's an opportunity to mine the multitude of identities that we have?
Absolutely, it's a great question. I would say that, you know, we started our journey really with this Purple Light Up in probably September or October, so really had a pretty short window. The short answer is that I do think that there's a lot more opportunity for intersectionality here. You know, February, for example, is Black Disability Awareness Month, and we have seen, you know, increased efforts to kind of work together. So I would say specifically for Purple Light Up, probably year one, we didn't quite get there, but definitely something that I see huge opportunity for and want to explore more this year.
Wonderful. And I'm wondering if the team could jump into the chat box. I know we have one of our themes later in the year, which is around the subject of intersectionality and how networks can work together. So someone could drop into the chat and just remind our members and our colleagues when that month is, and get booking on your peer group sessions. That would be super. Dan, I'm going to come to you. The other question, it's applicable to both of you, but I will come to you, Dan. Do you see, as a result of Purple Light Up, people becoming more confident and comfortable in their skin? You know, our strapline is building disability confidence from the inside out, what we call the third phase of change. Are you seeing tangible evidence of that?
Yeah, I think definitely so. We're definitely seeing that there's more people coming forward, more people sharing, more engagement with each other through our sort of our internal intranet site and community page that we've got for our members. I think still there is more work to do, so there is that confidence to share with people outside of the community more, you know, but I think there's definitely change there, and people are proud, as everybody should be proud of who they are and what they are, regardless of race, disability, sexuality, and I think that we're definitely seeing that, and that's something that is a theme for us as Enable, that we always can continuously sort of strapline for is that people should be proud. They should be sharing their experiences because they should be proud of what they are achieving, what they have achieved. And so there definitely has been people being much more forthcoming in sort of sharing with us their story, but also more importantly, sharing with each other so they can get that right support from each other, which I think is so important, and is one of the many reasons why I was so keen to be involved in the network here at NatWest.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dan. Well, look, as ever, more questions than we have time. We should have done this for 3 hours. However, we're busy bunnies and people have work to do. let me start. I've got some wrap. We've got some thoughts about things that are coming up and how you can plan, and some support packages. So I'm going to cover that off in the next few minutes. Before I do, let me say, Dan, Colin, thank you so much for your time, your energy and your care in explaining for us the way in which you within your organisations have leveraged this movement. There are more questions. One is a social media. Look, we'll find you and we'll get your thoughts, and we'll make sure that our members hear those answers on the member zone. Wonderful. But for the moment, thank you so much for joining us today. We wish you much luck for this year's, although we'll speak to you again before then, I am sure. So I'm just going to spend just a couple of minutes before we close. So Kirsty, on that next slide, how we can offer up some support as you leverage the impact this year. So, you know, as we know, the movement just grows and grows and grows year on year, and we're seeing each year incremental change in the creativity, the innovation, and the ways in which organisations leverage the movement to drive real change, real practical change. Those of you who know me well, I go around saying it's not just about the purple. And what I mean by that is it's about the action. And, you know, we see again and again the way in which real action comes out of this incredible movement. We have, as you know, supported many organisations to develop case studies, storyboards, like HSBC, like Shell, GSK, for example, and they each produced really well thought through storyboards, case studies of the way in which they have developed the Purple Light Up. So these are available on our website, so our members can access these. This year, Graham is building a resource so that you can create your own case studies, but he's equally very keen to hear from you if you want a little bit of extra support to develop a case study. And of course, case studies will do many things. One, they support you to articulate the return on investment for your time, for your energy, and indeed cash within the business. But equally, they support individuals to notice, I suppose, the skin that we have in the game, and why this can be a very powerful moment to actually lean into our careers, to be brave and out and loud about our experiences of disability, of ill health, of mental ill health, of neurodiversity. So if you'd like a little bit of extra support, make a beeline for Graham, and he will work with you to create a really special case study. If you want to see some of those that I've mentioned, then let us know, and we'll make sure you've got those. Some of the other activities, I just want to call out one or two very special activities. One, they might be in the room with us, but they also spell out the ways in which you're leveraging this movement for change. So as for example, the Austrian Parliament did a big push on accessibility in relation to their buildings. So of course they used the excuse of the Purple Light Up to light buildings purple, but what they did was to really spotlight on and showcase the need for accessibility improvements amongst their buildings, which was very, very special. There are many organisations who might use this to launch a disability network, which is fantastic, and others of you might choose to use the moment to relaunch or refresh or rebrand your disability employer resource group and network. And we're seeing again and again and again how that really pushes membership through the roof for you, and you use that moment really to gain more traction and to get more people engaged within your disability resource group, both as employees with disability, disabled employees, as well as allies, and that's very special. TSB, Clifford Chance are the big call-outs this year in terms of how it drove up their membership. And then in terms of the collaboration piece, we talked about that earlier. We hear Colin's thoughts and reflections about what else can be done in this space. I think one of the call-outs for us is how the Financial Ombudsman Service, for example, has collaborated with other networks to really create some very special activities. So lots of examples there. lots and lots of examples. And in fact, they had a flash mob, from my memory, 10% I think of their workforce actually rocked up with their chief exec in attendance for a flash mob. It was very special. Think of the things that we can do virtually with flash mobs. Anyway, one goes into overdrive around creativity. I think our advice is really to start with your aims. We heard that from Dan. Start with your aims, start with your purpose, start with your plan. Think about a structured and a systematic approach as to what you want to achieve. And I think whatever stage you are in your journey of setting up a disability employer resource group, or improving the performance and the effectiveness of that network, start with the why, start with the purpose, start to think about what your overall higher purpose is. And broadly, and we see each and every day different purpose statements for disability employee resource groups. When you start with the why and you really think about your higher purpose, ultimately it's all about making it easier for people to bring their authentic selves to work. One, so that they can flourish and thrive and be who they are in the context of work. But equally, it's about, I suppose, supporting their businesses, supporting our businesses, our organisations to do better, whatever product, service or delivery agent they are. So start with the why. In terms of this year, our theme is, drum roll, inner confidence. So Graham smashed it with our membership in relation to last year's theme, leader to leader, ERG leader and chief exec senior sponsorship. This year, we're really going to focus down on inner confidence. Plan is, in terms of your planning, I should say, book your executive sponsors diary now. We know that any chief executive needs at least 3 months, sometimes more, to be able to be available. So think about how you work with your D&I team, think about how you work with your executive sponsor. So if you want their time, make sure you think now about how you can get a wee bit of planning time in the diary, perhaps around the summertime, as well as the actual time in December. We'll absolutely, I saw questions coming up about the videos, we'll absolutely make those available and signpost you to them. There were really some phenomenal videos. And, you know, if you ever want a bit of a mission moment for yourself in your very busy working week, I would strongly encourage you to just watch one a week, because it really does show the power of conversation between different leaders in different places. Really very special. In terms of preparedness, think about the impact that you can make through your leader to leader campaign. We'll have much more information about what it means around this inner confidence piece, but certainly take a look at all of those videos to see how you might start to create a framework for a conversation between your senior business leaders as well as employees with disability around the dynamic of building inner confidence. And then start to draft your questions. Lots more information available, but start to think about how you might draft those questions and what that might look like and feel like as you build your own campaign. What else, Kirsty? Tell me what else I need to do. Future meetings. I knew there'd be magic. So 2 dates for your diary. So one is the 8th of September, 1600 GMT time, and 20th of October. Before then, there will be much more information about the collateral that Graham is going to be creating for us. Let me look at the time, because I might even bring Graham in for 30 seconds. 30 seconds. When will our members next hear from you around the campaign packs?
My aspiration is the beginning of Q2, so beginning of April. I've reached out in the chat. If anybody wants to get in contact to support with the case studies, you can reach out by email. But yeah, it'll be segmented through the year, kind of really building for you.
Wonderful. He has a cunning plan. We call him the spreadsheet king here at PurpleSpace, because he has a plan for everything. Graham, thank you so much. So I think we are now on the hour. Lastly, thank you for Kirsty for organising ourselves today, and thank you all for joining, for your time, for your enthusiasm, for your passion. You are, all of you, creating a much more accessible working world for employees with disability. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. So we'll see you soon. Get in touch if you need help. You know where to find us. You know the drill. Come and see us in the member zone, and we'll see you very soon.